All right, welcome to the Spoiler Kings. My name is Tim Kerriman with Brian the Grizzly, and we got Brandman Brandon. So me and Brian, we already gave our review of it, but the Guardians is so good. It's so good that we need to hear what Brandon says about this one and give his official Spoiler King review of it. So Brandon, I'll let you kind of run with it. Why don't you start off with some of the good stuff you liked about Guardians Volume 3?
Well, first and foremost, guys, thanks for laying aside the time because I know I was absent last week for the initial review. I do apologize about that. But yeah, so first and foremost, this movie is freaking awesome. That's been said multiple times before. James Gunn really brought everything full circle in the best, most emotional way. It's interesting because the first Guardians movie started out very whimsical, very fun. This is still a fun movie, but it's easily the most emotional movie, and parts of it are even admittedly kind of tough to watch, which you wouldn't expect. But I think my favorite thing about this is it's very much first and foremost a James Gunn movie. By that, I mean to say it's very influenced by its director, which, as much as I love the MCU, we don't see terribly much of that in the universe in terms of movies kind of having their own distinct voice. I think the closest we've come is
all of Phase 4, which was terrible.
But it's not even even though the quality of Phase 4 was very much all over the place, I do appreciate that it at least kind of dared to let the directors kind of directly influence their movies. Like Eternals was a Chloe Zhao movie. Doctor Strange, Multiverse of Madness was very much a Sam Raimi movie, which I liked. The last two Thor movies were very influenced by Waititi, but this was very much like Kevin Feige just stepped back and completely let James Gunn do its thing, which I thought really worked to its advantage. And it had the advantage of a very well-made script. It goes really deep into it's very Rocket Raccoon centric, which was great because he's my favorite character. There was very much a sense of payoff with him and going into his backstory, and to an extent, like I said, making him even the main character or like the more central. But I liked that it also ended things on a note that very much they could continue if they wanted to, but at the same time, it wrapped things up so well that I would be content if they didn't. If this was the last we've seen of these characters, I'm sure we won't. They even say that the legendary Star-Lord will return, and for all we know, we might even see some more stuff with the remaining Guardians. But I really appreciated that. I thought it was well acted. Great villain with the high evolutionary. Just a lot that the soundtrack, the music was worked very well in terms of driving the narrative. I was just happy with it, all around.
Yeah. Anything you didn't quite like? I know as hard it might be to think of anything bad for this one.
I think that they kind of underutilized the character of Adam Warlock. Mm-hmm. I thought that they could have, to be honest, they could have even held off on him until like a later time. I knew they wouldn't. I knew there was some payoff needed there, with the way they ended Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. But I just thought he was kind of an undercooked character, which they kind of even explain in the movie why he was kind of undercooked, because he was prematurely let out of the cocoon we see him in. But I feel like there was more they could have done with him. It just seemed like he just seemed kind of like put there just kind of out of necessity.
No, it's exactly what you said. It's almost like they wrote a great script and then they're like, oh yeah, the payoff from 2. You gotta throw him in here somewhere.
Exactly. And the other thing that I liked about this movie, it very much felt, like I mentioned earlier, very much felt in its own little corner. Like it wasn't fixated on like tying into a greater universe or planting the seeds for like a later Avengers movie or something. In the greater universe. it was just in its own little corner. It just focused on telling and wrapping up its own story, which I really appreciated. I meant to mention that too.
Yeah, no, that's one thing, but it's also like you could take things that happen in this movie and apply it to, the bigger picture, because just the High Evolutionary alone, I thought, like how much did he really affect in the universe? Who is his creations and stuff like that. So,
I mean, and then having the Guardians, I think we're going to get Rocket Raccoon more, and you can put him in any, because he's been with the Avengers. Anything that's going to be cosmic, I think you're going to be able to have him there now, along with Groot, because it doesn't take much for that. And then you have Star-Lord, who I believe is going to come back in other entities. Like as far as when we get Battle World and all that stuff, Star-Lord's going to be a perfect person to bring in those things. So they did that. They ended the series with keeping the main characters that could be around, and like they closed the door on Gamora, closed the door, on Mantis. They closed the door on a lot of characters that they need to close the door on. I thought it worked out really well with that. It's smart. It was just smart. I mean, they closed the door on Drax. Drax, that hit me still in my heart hole, the whole Drax thing. But they closed the door on these characters and they kept the ones that could stay around. The Nebulous will stay around, so they'll still be able to have those characters if you want them.
Yeah. Even so, I think they still kind of kept everyone around, because you can easily make a Disney Plus show out of Gamora and Mantis. Gamora and the Ravengers.
But she said she's done, so I guess you could.
Zoe says she said she wants to see Gamora keep going, so they could recast.
I don't think they will do that.
Yeah, she's in green makeup. Get another skinny chick and here you go, green makeup.
Yeah, that's that. It's bad move. It just could be bad. It could go poorly, and you don't want to do that, especially with recasting. A black girl and not bringing in another one. That could go very badly, very quickly. So it's probably not the best thing to do. And she's not necessary in the grand scheme. No. So why even mess with it? Everyone who's necessary, you can have. Yeah. Anyone you want to be able to go on with, you can do it. So I mean that's even a plus. But I have to agree with you when you said Adam Warlock, Brandon. Man, I think they could have done more, but I think they will do more. So I think they introduced him, and now they're going to be able to utilize him in other things.
Yep. They'll bring him back, and do more with him down the line. I thought he was well acted. I thought Will Poulter did fine in the role. Yeah, I think they just could have done more with him. It was just kind of untapped potential, but. That was like my biggest thing.
Yeah. I think that was ours too when we did our review. Yeah. So I had a couple questions. I want to hear your take on it. One is Groot. So a couple of things at the post-credit scene. Spoilers if you haven't seen the movie, I guess, or you didn't know there's a post-credit scene. There's two. The very end post-credit scene. We see, I guess, King Groot. I think what they're calling him, and he's super giant and stuff. Even in the bulk of this movie, he's very fuller. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, so is there? Do you agree with some of the people that think like, since he is a descendant of the first Groot, he's not the same Groot. He's like a kid almost, but also he was more well taken care of, that he grew as a fuller plant. You know what I mean? Where the first one was stringy, lanky, kind of like unhealthy looking, even though he was super strong, but he didn't have that positive
the love.
The love. Where this Groot has the love from the beginning. So I
haven't heard too much about that, but
no.
He had father figures. He had mother figures.
Mother.
He had all those things. Yeah, an entire family. That was. You talk to a plant, it grows better, and because they involved this plant, they loved him.
Yeah,
he grew. To be the Hulk.
Yeah, they all pretty much by volume 2 forward, they all pretty much were co-parenting Groot.
Yeah, exactly. So I don't know if you heard that and if you had any takes on it.
I didn't.
No,
But that's pretty interesting now that I
was an
think
interesting
about
one.
it.
Yeah. And then the other one with Groot is how do you take it as how do you like that we now understand what Groot says when he says I am Groot? Because at the end he says I love you guys. Yeah. And we all understood it. So the same way how Gamora eventually figured out what Groot was saying, you know. Mm-hmm. So do you think that's a good thing? You think like they're gonna have to pay Vin Diesel more money to say more than 3 words, or they're just gonna go back to it?
They well, I guess they have the money to spare, huh? but I know Vin Diesel at one point. I remember reading an article years back where he was like pushing for Groot to become. I think he said either Alpha Groot. I'm pretty sure he said he wanted Groot to become Alpha Groot, which in the comics I think can actually form full sentences. Which was probably Vin Diesel's way of just saying I want more lines. But
so James Gunn came out and said, we kind of talked about this, that at the end when he says I love you guys, he was still saying I am Groot. It's just the audience now understood him and could now understand. Yeah, can understand what he was saying, because just like as they became closer and closer with Groot, they started to understand what he was saying. Before they had no idea what he was saying, just saying I am Groot. But now they know what he's saying, and now the audience now knows him so well that we understood what he was saying.
Yeah, I don't know.
You think you like that idea, or do you think that?
Yeah.
So you can keep Vin Diesel still saying I am Groot.
Because it also needs to be like a perfect scenario, right? Because if somebody doesn't know Groot, then are we still going to hear I am Groot? But then if he's talking to, then it gets too complicated. Because if he's talking to just one of the Guardians,
then we should
do we understand it? I don't know. I mean, it's a cool thing, but the more I think about it, the more I'm like, are we going to keep it or not? So
the more I think about it, the more my head hurts. I'm like, how are we going to pull this off?
Yeah. But any other good stuff or bad stuff that you can think of?
I think that was probably my main thing that I can think of, like on the fly. Just the
what about
Adam
Kraglin?
Warlock.
How you feel about Kraglin? That scene with Yondu, I thought that was pretty awesome.
Mm-hmm. I liked that.
Yeah.
I think they had just enough of Kraglin.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think too much of it got a little silly, but it allowed Kraglin to be the comedy relief, but in a way where it didn't affect the main story. The whole bad dog kind of thing was pretty good.
Bad dog.
Yeah.
Orgy says he is basically the Guardian's son, especially Rocket's.
Yeah.
And then Brandon Davis said, I think understanding Groot was just a one-off for this film.
I think so too. I do too, but it is interesting.
And then finally he says, I totally agree about Adam Warlock. So, but I think we'll get a payoff for it, and he'll be around some other one.
Oh, certainly they'll do more with him down the line. This of all characters, this stuff definitely is not the last we've seen of him.
No, he's 100% showing up in King. Was it King Dynasty or Secret Wars? Secret Wars. Yeah, or
both.
yeah, probably. See, we'll go these last couple ones. It was so sad the way everyone went their separate ways. It reminds me of how TV shows would end a series and everyone goes off on their own. Yeah, and it. I don't know. What do you think about that one?
I think it was necessary.
Yeah.
I respect that. I really respect that Gunn decided to do that. because it kind of gave a sense of finality to it. I respected that he decided to go that route. You know,
Yeah.
it's so easy for trilogies to like not end or not give a sense of wrapping things up. You know, so I like that. I like that he he had the courage to wrap things up. Not we don't get enough of that.
Yeah.
So
Also, I think it's kind of good is he didn't do a whole like Luke Skywalker and like kill him. It's like he wrapped things up like you said, but he also left everyone alive. So somebody else can play with those toys. Rather than like something like Star Wars, you're like, and we're gonna kill this person, we're gonna kill this person, we're gonna kill this person. Good luck in the next movie. It's like that's not how you play nice with others. Especially in a big cinematic universe. So,
yeah,
but
and there were rumors that he was going to kill off characters off.
Yeah, well, that's what I was going to ask you is, are you disappointed or happy that no one died?
I'm relieved.
Yeah,
because I actually saw a couple of reports saying that he was talked out of killing 2 characters by Feige.
Okay.
Feige said, how about we just don't? Not that we have to use them. Let's just not kill them.
Yeah.
So I thought that was cool.
Yeah. But also, like, he's the boss, and he's like, "Hey, how about you don't ruin it?"
He was the boss in Eternals. He was because he was when he was fighting with Zhao, saying that he wanted to change it to make it a better movie. He was fighting he fought with multiple. He just kind of gave up on fighting because he was tired of fighting for every single movie. That's why a lot of those movies in Phase 4 just didn't come out right, because he knew he wanted to change it, but he didn't feel like he had the time or the patience to have to rewrite it with them.
Well, he also, to me, it's not confirmed, but I think he lost the power. Yeah.
Well, the report was that he would have fought it, but then it would delay it, and he couldn't delay the movie, and that was the biggest thing.
Yeah, because they wanted like a movie a month. They wanted so much. Like freaking Bob Chapek, man, almost killed the MCU. But Disney. But Jorge said, "I'm just sad. Mantis and Drax are going separate ways. They were so close to each other. Yeah, which doesn't mean like later on we don't get them again. You're
not going to get Drax again.
Why not?
Because he said, I'm not doing Drax
Dave
again.
Bautista said he's not doing Drax again. We can recast, man.
They're not going to recast people that have already had movies and completed their story arc.
If we want to recast T'Challa, we have to show that we can recast.
No, don't use people that have already have story arcs completed. That's not what.
But you have to start.
You recast people that haven't had that story arc completed. Instead of just dropping them, you recast them and finish the story arc. But if you're using people that have already story arc, sometimes you might run to a point where you might be a bad movie because you didn't need to bring them back. And I don't want that to be a problem too.
No, yeah, I hope they don't bring them back just willy nilly, because that seems unnecessary.
Yeah, he's 53. Dave Bautista's 53. He doesn't need to have his all that makeup. Let him go be whatever he was in every.
But you get somebody else. I mean, both Drax and Gamora are so much makeup that.
No, but they look just like them, though. They look just like them. Yeah,
I think you can. I mean, well, yeah. I mean, you can't find a replacement.
You're not going to find another Batista. You're not going to go find.
I'm okay. If you want to recast Drax, I'm cool. If you want to recast Gamora, I'm cool. And James Gunn and Dave Bautista and Zoe, all three said like, let's not let this not be the end of their story. Like, hopefully they come back somehow. So, and I'm good.
I don't want to see it.
Yeah, I'm not sure I'd want to see like I wouldn't want to see it. I'm not sure I'd want to see a recast either.
Because at one point, these characters have these people need to be recasted, unless we're going to just do because what are you going to do?
Be done with Drax and Gamora?
Why?
Because you don't need them. There's been multiple Guardians of the Galaxy.
There's a Secret Wars coming out. You're telling me like Drax wouldn't be a great asset in Secret Wars?
No, because he was a joke.
All the things. he was a destroyer. He was as strong as the Hulk. Like he is super,
in the
super strong.
MCU, 91999.
And number 2, that dude was skateboarding in space as they were crashing in asteroids, and he was having a blast. And then they crashed in the planet, and he was like, "Just do it again!" Like the dude is strong. The dude is super strong.
Yeah, he's also the one who didn't do anything. He was a joke in all the MCU. Like he was always the butt of, and that's what Dave Bautista didn't like that. He felt like he was always the butt of every joke. And he kept getting beat up.
And
literally every movie got beat up.
Yeah, and all he did really was kind of just slash at Thanos a couple times. When they could have done more, you know.
Yeah, I'm okay with casting because I mean, you're gonna kill all these characters, and then you're gonna eventually run out of characers.
You're not.
You know what I mean? Like if you want to continue stories, then
I have, you know, between you and I, we have 5,000 comic books. like literally, there is no end to any of these things. You don't have to recast this. They can bring other groups in, and they're going to bring other groups in. And Guardians is just one little entity, so you can just continue to do. You don't need to bring these characters specifically back, and they have other ones that are going to be the Guardians. So you just continue the story with them. You could bring back Mantis because her arc wasn't fulfilled, but you know the ones whose arc is filled. I think it's bad to bring them back because we don't need it. It's already done. We could go to another character. They'll be fine.
I don't know. I mean, for me, you can recast Star-Lord. You can recast all you. You can recast Bradley Cooper. You just get another voice actor. Who gives a shit? You know what I mean? Like, I'm okay with recasting all these characters.
But I mean, we're going to have the same movies again? No, I mean this thing.
No, we're not going to retell the same story. We're going to tell a new story with just a new Star-Lord. Like at one point, like because superheroes and comic book characters live on forever. They die, they come back. They die, they come back, and they go on. You can't do that in the movies without being able to eventually recast.
I don't know if it's going to last that long.
I think I'm so attached to the actors playing the roles that I wouldn't want to see anyone different playing them.
They're not Batman. This is the Guardians of the Galaxy because they're not Batman. They're not Superman. They're not that kind of character. They're not that legacy character. I agree. Legacy characters could be recast and retell more stories, but these aren't legacy characters. You know, the comic book run of Guardians of the Galaxy is not that long.
No. The movies are the reason why the comics are better now. You know?
They're redoing it, but the first one was only like 15 comic books. Like that's all of it that was written for it. So like it's not that necessary for to have them that short run. You could use other people, the other characters. You know, by the time they get into X-Men, they ain't gonna have time for Guardians of the Galaxy.
No, Star-Lord literally marries an X-Men. So it's like,
I didn't say, but that's what I said. Chris Pratt's going to be back.
You know,
they already said Star-Lord would be back. Like that's
Star-Lord. They didn't say Chris Pratt is coming back. It says Star-Lord's coming back. Like at one point, we need to separate the actors with the characters.
But Chris Pratt is already going to come back because he signed a 10-movie deal. He only done 8 movies. So yeah, he's going to come back.
I mean, he's gonna do Secret Wars for sure. I think, but I don't know. That's for me. As what like it's a good end to their stories, but if you want to bring him back, because he's on nowhere with Nebula, so Drax just didn't go off into nowhere. Like he's still there.
And he could be there forever with his 50 kids and get old and die. It'd be fine.
Yeah.
You know.
I don't know. So, all right, let's get into the rating real quick. That was like a little sidetrack. All right, Brandon, are you giving this a now, which means you gotta go watch it right now? Later means you can wait till it's out on streaming, or never, which means skip it. What are you giving this one, man?
This is very much easy a now.
Yeah,
this is a now like several times. I've already seen it in the theater 3 times.
Nice.
Yeah. Man, you were in front of me. I got to see it this Wednesday.
I should have just asked you, like, why are you giving it a now? Instead of, yeah.
It's excuse me. it's got pretty much everything I was hoping for, and then some. It really surpassed my expectations. James Gunn has always done really good at bringing an emotional element to these characters, and he really, really put his foot into this one. It like hit me in ways that I wasn't even expecting. So and it had everything. I thought it was pretty well balanced. I thought the tone and the way it ended was very appropriate. Like I said, I think really the only downside to it was for me was how they handled the character of Adam Warlock, but that's not something that can't be fixed down the line. And yeah, I thought they really, really went hard with this one. My complaints about it are minimal, and it really had me hooked from beginning to end. And it ended in a way that I can't help but respect. It ended in a way that I'd be fine with us seeing more of these characters later on, but at the same time, I'd be fine if we didn't. Because there was that much of a sense of finality to it. So yeah, this is very much easily a no.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Like you said, a lot of feelings and stuff like that. I mean, I came home and hugged my dog. I'm like, I love you, man. So then we'll finish up some of these comments real quick. Brandon Davis said, I really like the technical look of the film when they went to the place to get the kill switch code. Yeah, the organic matter, everything was squishy looking. It was just the technical look. The film was amazing. It did. The CGI was on point. Was really on point for this film.
And how can you not like Nathan Fillion? Come on, man.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's another James Gunn alum. So.
Yep.
I was like, hey, look.
Yeah. The whole thing with me is like he's like, oh, we got one of those.
Yeah. Oh, and also, I wanted to mention the emotional element that James Gunn brought to the Guardians movies that has me very, very excited for Superman Legacy, because I feel like he's going to bring to me that was kind of what was missing from Man of Steel and just kind of the Henry Cavill version of Superman, unfortunately. So I think really James Gunn is really going to succeed where the Zack Snyder movies unfortunately just kind of fell flat for me. So I think like he's really gonna do great with that.
Okay. Yeah. I got a question for you. Teeths, Floor, or Layla?
That's tough. Probably Lila, I'd say. Yeah. Yeah.
Teeths got me, man. It was like, dude, you in a wheelchair? Oh my god. Walrus? Oh god.
Yeah. Oh no, that was Teeths was in a wheelchair? Yeah, he was.
Yeah, more or less.
Yeah, it's coming back now. It's coming back, yeah.
Yeah, the giant wheels. Also, I read a theory where Lila could be the reason why he's so obsessed with getting parts. Like why he wanted Bucky's arm so bad is because it reminded him of Lila, because she had the fake arms. So it's like, so I'm like, huh. And now you go back and every time you watch any interaction with Rocket, you always think to his origin and how like things kind of affect him. So I'm like, because that's a pretty interesting why he's so obsessed with body parts. Like, I want that eyeball. It's like, because he's just like, are you trying to build a new friend? Like, what are you doing, man? So yeah, exactly. Right.
I was like, you got a leg because Teeths didn't have any legs to walk on.
Yeah. The brand says, I really thought they were going to kill Drax the same. When he got shot, I did hear he was going to die since Dave doesn't want to be Drax anymore. Yeah. Which I think killing him would have been a good thing too if they would have done it well. But I didn't see a really good spot where you could have killed Drax and just continued with the mission. So I liked it. Said, how can it not be the end of their story if they don't come back to play them? That's selfish of them to not want to return.
What is this, elementary school?
You don't want to play? Nah,
It's
I
not
get it,
fair.
Man. Yeah, I get
It's
it.
been 10 years of them playing the same character. I understand.
Yeah. And I'm sure Zoe's like, I can make $1 billion in a bunch of other movies too. Yeah. Gamora is one of the longest standing female characters in the MCU. Now that Black Widow is dead, I think she could eventually be recasted.
Black Widow could be recast because I mean, come on. I mean, Blunt was the first Black Widow. I mean, they recast her, but but once again, when the arc is done, it's done. Let the arc be done.
So the next arc.
We don't need another arc. They're not legacy characters. we can redo Iron Man.
Yeah, but with Black Widow, they did something kind of interesting where we got Florence Pugh to kind of replace her. So we got like a good replacement,
But that's what they can almost do it with every character because there's so many characters in Marvel. You don't have to replace the character. I mean, the one they just replace it with another character.
Yeah. Especially if the actors are fine with it. Yeah. I think now after the whole Chadwick Boseman thing, I think they need to like start saying that like I'm good if you want to recast. Like I feel like it's such an issue now. Of like should they have or should they not have and this and that. And I feel like if the actor kind of like needs to full out say it.
It didn't matter. Chadwick said plain and simple.
Well,
he said it in his own word, like, look, I don't care. I'm just an actor. You can recast, especially if the story's not done. He literally says, especially if the story's not done, finish telling the story. We're just actors. We're just acting.
Yeah. I think you need to know. You need to like say. He goes, if something like it needs to be like in a will. Like if something happens, you can recast. Like I'm not like that attached. But here, this is the big one. Volume 2 domestically had a second best drop with 4. I thought it was a third. It might have changed. But it's the second best drop with 47% drop second weekend. Black Panther had the best with 44. So yeah, dude. I think we were saying like around a 50%. I think that's what you were saying last week, Brian. And you came so close.
I said better than a 50% drop. Then we're gonna be talking about it being the second ranked movie next weekend. And guess what? Yeah. Second ranked movie in this weekend. Already 530 million.
Yeah. So Jorge says it should end around 800 to 900 if legs continue. I think it's gonna break a bill.
I think too.
It's gonna break a bill. I can see it happening.
I think Fast X will be number 1, but Guardians will be number 2 this coming up weekend.
And barely, it's gonna be close, I think.
And it's gonna be real. It's gonna make a lot more foreign on other soils. I believe we're talking about next weekend. We'll be here, and Guardians made $400 million foreign soil, and $280 million here domestically. So that puts it at $680 million. If that's what we are next weekend, they're going to push for a bill.
Yeah,
it's going to be real close.
So. Yeah, I can see it. They said Xavier said, "I'm going to miss the original Guardians crew. The proper send off for them. I can't wait to see what comes next." Yep, exactly. I agree with that. And then Brandon said, in the first one, they were arrested. Yeah, it was known and said known associates for Rocket and Layla was what? Really? I gotta go. Yeah. I don't shit. I just completely blanked on it. It's going to be hard for Fast X and Little Mermaid. They will take screens. Yeah.
No, well, see, Fast X is only this weekend, so that means it's going to be Guardians of Fast X this weekend. So if it's going to make a lot of that stuff, but Little Mermaid and Fast X is not going to be huge domestic. I mean, huge foreign on foreign soils. This is still going to be a huge movie for foreign. Yeah,
the international number is what going to get this over a bill. Yeah,
I think that the international number is going to hit 580, almost 600 million
by itself. Yeah. You already know how. Well, Fast X might do well, but I've been hearing mixed things about it. And Little Mermaid, we already know how international, theaters feel about, people of color. So yeah. So it could be a great movie, but it won't be not international like that. But
definitely not China.
Yeah, exactly.
Definitely not China.
Yeah, it'd be a giant Ursula and the Little Mermaid down there in the
exactly. They're gonna show her in the little chariot that she's looking like almost like with the yeah. I'm not gonna go there, but yeah, that's what's going. They're like, this is what we're gonna go see, guys. Oh yeah, I don't want to talk about it.
So, but yeah, we'll definitely keep an eye on it, and once it passes a bill, which I think we will, we'll keep an eye on it for sure.
Yeah.
But cool, man. So, Brandon, that was your take on Guardians 3. We appreciate you coming in and letting us know. Because, like I said, this was a great film, and I wish you were on, but I know life happens, and you were busy that night, so it's all good. But I'm glad you came in and gave us your thoughts on it. And everyone else, I know Brandon Davis, as soon as he saw it, he came on our Facebook group and he's like, "Oh my God,
we need to talk about this now."
We know, man, we know. But yeah, appreciate everyone in chat, like Xavier, Horgeek, Brandon, everyone else. Appreciate all you guys hanging out with us. But we are going to talk about some other stuff, so stick around. If you're watching live, if you're watching on replay, appreciate it. Thank you. Hit that like button, hit the subscribe button. We're on our way to 1,000, so you don't want to miss that. We're going to start doing some giveaways once we hit that next big milestone. But yeah, leave a comment, let us know what you think about Guardians 3, if you agree with all of Brandon's takes on it. But leave a comment, let us know how many times you've seen it already. Well, where's that number at? But cool. We are going to move on to our next topic for the night.